Don't believe the lies.
Would you explain your mission and what it is that you do that helps all of us?
Well, Zang Enterprise mission is to support community and sound money globally. And I've discovered that most people do not really understand what sound money is, but that's money that is above all central banks and governments to inflate away. They cannot inflate it away. It's because they have the broadest base of buyer. But my personal mission is to translate financial noise into understandable language so that people can make educated choices that, I don't know, puts their best interest first.
Music to my ears.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's amazing to listen to some of these people who just, it's advice. Do what I do. And as educators, we're here to give people the information so they make better choices. So that's music to my ears. I appreciate you very much coming on, and for Tiger coordinating this. This is amazing.
Me too. This is great. It's always nice to meet more people in the community because we have to grow it and build it. And I love what you guys are doing with putting stacking and collecting together, because it makes so much sense. And that's exactly, we have a sound money strategy that I developed since I've been studying currency life cycles since 1987. And it's based on repeatable patterns, but it includes all of that. So it definitely includes just stacking the metals, but it also includes collectibles because that's a different market for a different function.
One of the things that I always watch you do, you talk about the strategy that you use and that you advise other people. And everybody's in their own component of their own ability.
AKA Frosty.
You know, what I like people to really understand too, though, is that it's not unattainable. I mean, our minimum is 1 ounce of silver.
In your stacking strategy, where do you fit the silver, the raws, the pre-33s, the slab pre-33s, the bullions, foreign gold? Could you give us an overall view of what you see the strategy as we go into SHTF?
Well, I am very happy to do that. Frosty might not like everything that I have to say, but I'll tell you anyway.
So let me explain something real quick. The conversation's what's important.
Too true.
We have 2 different ways of looking at it. That's fine. What matters is the conversation. And so I'm happy to have that.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. But the strategy is built on layers so that no matter where you are in this trend cycle, you are always prepared. And that first layer is about sustaining your current standard of living as much as possible. Silver is primarily my barterable position. And to your point, Tiger, all different sizes. So that's where you would be stacking your silver. That's also where silver bullion would go. This is a silver eagle. This is a peace dollar. You know, dimes pre-1965, dimes, quarters, half dollars, and dollars. But a dime is roughly, it's just easier to think of it this way. The dime is roughly 1/10 of an ounce. Quarter is 1/4 of an ounce. A half dollar is 1/2 an ounce. A silver dollar is 1 ounce. So they're all 90% silver. So 90% back of that. But it's just easy to think about it that way. But there are some things. So this I would use for, let's say, going to the gas tank, putting gas in my car, going to the grocery store and buying the pint of strawberries. Then you have, to your point also, Stacker, the foreign gold coins and the pre-33 just raw gold coins. This happens to be a French rooster, right? This kind of gold is what I like to use for things like property taxes, because this kind of gold and silver that we're talking about in here will run, relatively speaking, to the spot market. So it's just about the weight of the gold. But that's also where cash comes in, because the strategy, the first thing we do when we're developing a strategy for somebody is define the goals. What is it that you are trying to accomplish. And what you can accomplish with the strategy is you can sustain your current standard of living. You can protect whatever fiat money wealth, so stocks, bonds, ETFs, all that garbage, cryptos, right, would go in there. You can sustain whatever fiat money wealth you've managed to accumulate. You can also then position for growth beyond that. And that's what I like to use my collectibles for. But I know, as you know, Frosty, there are all different levels of collectibles. So depending upon what you're going to be converting that into in the future, whether it's a stock or it's a dividend, so it could be a dividend paying stock, or it could be income producing real estate or rights, etc., would depend on the different quality levels, all the same gold content weight, but it's that rarity and that blemish level that I'm referring to in those levels of coins, and then up to the level of legacy, which is not important to some people. To me, it's very important because I would like to create a legacy for my family. And so there would be a group of coins that would be ultra rare, not in the millions of dollars, but still very rare, that I would hope that they pass down from generation to generation so it lasts, and my family, my great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren will also have the capacity to dream and the ability to have those dreams come true, because the new system that they're putting in place is a full surveillance system. And like the World Economic Forum says, by 2030, you will own nothing because of the psychology of AI and the fear of missing out and the nudging and the tokenization and what the system, corporations, governments have in mind to put us under full surveillance and control, really our every move. This enables you to not fall into that trap, along with local community, to create surety in those things you need to live a reasonable standard of living: food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, which has arguably become the single most important part of the mantra, as well as shelter. And I do put medications under the food category because, frankly, food is the most important medicine that we put in our bodies. And so we have to take our power back, and there are ways to do that. It's my mission. It's why I was put on this planet. And it really does go back to my favorite question: how many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth? But if you don't understand what's happening, how in the world can you make an educated choice that puts your best interest first?
Since we did talk about fractionality, this is one of the few things Frosty and I don't agree on. What's your stance on Goldbacks? I personally know because I watch you all the time.
I see a place for them in that cash portion of the strategy, because there is a certain level of cash, even though we know that it's losing all of its purchasing power, that's still the most recognizable. And what I like about Goldbacks, I think they would certainly be classified as a collectible because of that huge premium that's in there. But
Agree.
the premium does not bother me because gold and silver are both severely undervalued. So the functionality of this falls into a similar category as the functionality of the cash. So this is number one. And even in redeemable crypto gold like Glint or Kinesis, because those two you can redeem, that would also fall in this area. So it's not a whole portion of the portfolio. I don't stack them, but for a portion of your cash position, I think they make a whole lot of sense because they are still embedded with this happens to be a $1, a thousandth of an ounce. And I can't get that thousandth of an ounce, in many other ways than this.
I am right there with you. And so my issue with Goldbacks is it is a stacking strategy. I think it's foolish because if you look at how much it costs you per ounce, you're better to put that money away for 2 months or 3 months.
Except on that barterability level,
And
because
that's my point.
right. So, I mean, would I do all of it in Goldbacks? Absolutely not. But for a portion of the cash portion, which depending upon your age and your circumstance and what you're doing, depends on how much you want, because this is absolutely going away. But then this would be like your next line of defense. And, as they build out the businesses that will accept Goldbacks, that may actually end up saving you. But would I just stack Goldbacks? No, absolutely not. But I do see a place for them. I mean, because I do have my $1 gold coin, right? You can see it's a 20th of an ounce. It's teeny weeny, but this is the smallest. And let me tell you, this would be super easy to lose. People don't understand Goldbacks. Do you think that most people understand the value of gold and silver? We've started a program at Zang Enterprises, and I'll send it when we're having some cards printed right now. But here we are asking people to, like, I sit on the advisory board of the Citizens for Sound Money movement to get sound money back into the monetary system again. So I'm asking people, you're asking people to do this, and they don't even know what it is. So we came up with they're business size cards. And on one side of the card, we have a dime, a new dime. And on the other side of the card, we have a pre-1965 dime. Now, you can look at the two of them and they look like pretty much identical. This is how they make the shift, right?
Yes.
But we're also, the card says have a paradigm shift, right? We're trying to help people get this in their hand, because if you look on the edge, obviously one is all silver, the other is copper. And when you put the silver in people's hands, their eyes light up once they see this difference. So how can we ask them to understand Goldbacks or constitutional silver or constitutional gold or wanting sound money back in the system? How can we expect people to do that unless they understand it? And how can we really, really, really educate them without putting it in their hands and giving them that experience? Because we're saying, okay, buy this, but they don't understand why. They don't understand the difference.
Yep, precisely.
And this is, I believe, this is our opportunity to get sound money back in the global system again. And that's the battle. In fact, that's why I'm going to Malaysia in just a few weeks and I'm going to be talking about sound money, because if we can get, we don't need 80% of the population. We need, I believe, 3% of the population to just convert their fiat wealth, some of their fiat wealth, into physical gold and silver. I think we can have a shot at getting a seat at the table. And we have to do it from the bottom up, like grassroots at the state level. And so we need people to participate in that. But we also have to do it on a top down level with the different governments around the world, with the different central bankers around the world, because truthfully, I don't think most people in government understand sound money at all.
No, they don't.
They want to take us fully digital and fully surveillance and fully controlled. We better fight that.
Well, that's it. Things that you taught me over the years, how things happened 1907, 1913, 33, 1971, it's all been a slow, gentle push of brainwashing. And now the new brainwashing that they used to call CBDCs, now they're calling stablecoin, which is the exact same thing with a different name. They've changed the cover to the book.
Let's kind of ratchet that one up again a little bit more, because I can't say whether it's better or worse. It's really about who's controlling it and Tiger, I think we've had this conversation where all of my reading, I kept saying, okay, what's going to justify this new digital money? What's going to justify it? Because in the current system, it's justified by issuing debt, and then that creates it. And so the two things that I've read right along is either debt or purchases. So the difference between a CBDC and a stable coin is in who issues it, and therefore exactly what that motivation is. There are a lot of similarities because it's full surveillance, but with AI and AI's ability taking that official, this is an official program. This isn't my opinion. This is an official program that President Reagan ushered in with Rupert Murdoch, and it's called perception management. Because if they can manage how you see things, they're then therefore managing how you move forward. And it's about what they want. I mean, they might spend 2 minutes on policy, but 8 hours on how they're going to present it to the world. So AI takes that up a huge level because it creates that engagement. And, we're hearing lots of different things. They want to, look, isn't Elon Musk putting things in people's brains, right? They're already utilizing this in different companies like Amazon. And Amazon, by the way, will be a huge issuer of stable coins. So that brings in another nuanced difference, which is that if it is a central bank CBDC, that is centralized. But the stable coins are fractionalized because you'll see an Amazon stable coin and a Walmart stable coin and a JP Morgan stable coin and a JC Penney stable coin, right? We're going to see, and they're not all going to be dollar backed. We're going to see a Hong Kong stable coin and a China's stable coin. And so there is a huge rush. What they're talking about doing right now, that stable coin industry is about 125 billion, according to the Federal Reserve of St. Louis. They're talking about growing the stable coin industry to 2 trillion by what year was that? Oh yeah, 2028. That's 2.5 years. So the answer is it will be purchases that justify stablecoin creation, and that will drive those corporations that are selling you crap, want you to buy stuff, to then turn around and back them with dollars and treasuries. So they're creating an artificial market for the dollar and the treasuries. Can they do it at the level that's enough to sustain the level of debt creation that they need to grow? But I don't know. That's a tremendous fractionalized issuance in a very short period of time. And legally, they have created moats and gates and safe harbors for those corporations that are creating this garbage, which means that when something goes wrong, and it will, you have no recourse. The individual has absolutely no recourse.
And I put a quote in chat by Ludwig Claudius. It's a distrust of an engineered opinion to the media's influence. He likened it to the 1940s Germany, saying, if you voice engineered opinion, it becomes back to what you indicated when it was perception management. The perception becomes the reality. Understanding the history, knowing how these little things that seemingly aren't related to each other pair. This is why I talk about the coin acts all the time. Constant destabilization of the fundamentals of gold and silver changed the way money moved. It changed our coinage, took the precious metals out of it. But I would like to point out one other thing, and I don't know if anybody in chat missed this. Tiger, I don't know if you caught this. You guys do something purposefully that I have missed, and I just realized it today. Paradigm. 2 dimes together. Something that a 5 or 6-year-old can go, paradigm, mommy, what's a paradigm? Opportunity for learning.
And Zang Enterprises, we believe in face-to-face. We believe in service. We care. It matters if you're happy. That's the way it was when we grew up, right?
True.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He said, Albert Einstein said, those who have the privilege to know have the duty to act. And in that action are the seeds of knowledge. What Tiger and I are trying to do in StackALector embodies this.
Josh, do you think that we can share that one slide where it shows when they kicked off and they converted corporate debt into Federal Reserve notes? Because I think this is one tool that just makes it so crystal clear. If you bear with me for just a minute here, and if you would allow me for just a second to share the screen, because this is also what's happening with the stablecoin movement. And, you know, it should be pretty obvious to everybody now that there really isn't any division between corporations and the state, which is a definition of fascism. But they know how to make these shifts. And they do it really simply. All right, so I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to show you the hard evidence, and I'll send you the links so you can share this with everybody. But, you know, how did they start out? They started out with the gold coin. Then they brought out the gold certificate. So you could walk into the bank with this, walk out with this, and that creates restrictions. But at the same time, they issued these Federal Reserve notes. Well, if gold justified this, what justified this? This is showing you how the Federal Reserve, remember, it was 20th of an ounce, backed $1. Once they legalized the Federal Reserve, that 20th of an ounce backed $2.40. And the way that they justified having these $20 bills or any of the Federal Reserve notes, you see that big difference, the kickoff, that black line underneath were the US government's gold holdings. Do you see how in 1914, all of a sudden what they did was they took all of the private corporate debt and turned them into Federal Reserve notes? That is from the government, my friends. That is proof positive. And that's what they're doing today with the stable coins in enabling the corporations to create the new money. Because make no mistake about it, once President Trump legalized the stable coins, he changed the monetary system. And I believe that that was about generating the hyperinflation that they need to get rid of the debt that we are in, because you got to burn off that debt in order to add on clean debt in a new system. But that's how they're justifying it. And corporations are right in there, just like they were at the beginning of this experiment, because governments wanted to tax you without you knowing about it, and corporations wanted to pay you less. And wow, inflation was so convenient for both of those. And there's not one doubt in my mind that we have already begun the hyperinflation. It is just not visible to the general public yet. But you watch these stable coins within very short order. I mean, they couldn't execute everything in the Dodd-Frank Act. They legalized that in 2010, and they still need way more years to finish that. But boy, let that stablecoin bill be passed. I've gotten notifications from banks about they're ready with the stablecoins.
And if we don't teach our children what we already know and what we learned from our grandparents, they're going to fall for it hook, line, and sinker, because the lies that they've told us exist. You walk up to someone and they say, what's money? And they'll show you fiat currency.
Or they'll show you their cell phone.
Oh, yeah. And that's why the Citizens for Sound Money is such an important movement that needs to grow.
Yes, it does.
All of our citizens, all of our youth especially, needs to know this stuff.
Yep.
They need to know what the lie is.
Yep. But I want redeemable gold back in our system again. Doesn't have to be at 100%. 40% is just dandy. But if I don't like what the government or the central bank is doing, I want to be able to take my gold, my real money that requires fiscal responsibility from these guys. I want to be able to pull it out because that's the only way that we can take our power back. That's really what happened in 33. The public gave up its power because while I had all three of these things at the same nominal face value, and they were controlling that. These are all $20 right here, but they were used to using them all interchangeably for 20 years. So when this went away, well, they still had this. And they go, well, nothing has changed. Everything had changed. And the same thing in 1965, pre-65 quarter, new garbage quarter, right? They took the silver out. So what happens is that as it becomes more expensive to create the money, right? They were printing a lot of paper that cost them too much to create the gold coins. And plus the gold coins limited their power. So they needed to get rid of that ASAP. And they did, but you can't do it quickly or people know that things have changed. Well, the silver became too expensive. So that was removed. And we had a sitting president come out and openly say, if you try to hoard this silver, we have enough silver to flood the market. We will manipulate. They didn't say manipulate, but it's in essence, President Johnson said, we're going to manipulate the market. And they certainly did with the Hunt brothers. That the first time that we saw silver hit $50 an ounce out of the chute, but has it remained the same? I mean, what's the value? What's your purchasing power value of a quarter? Less than nothing, less than zero. What can you buy with a quarter today? Nothing. But this silver quarter, well, you know, we did some quarter cards too. Since we want to distribute them more widely, frankly, we have to go down to dimes. But, you know, this little coin cost us $6. It maintains your ability to purchase the same goods and services, period. But do they want you to do that? No. And they're getting rid of the penny. Why? Well, in 1982, prior to 1982, pennies were 95% silver. In 1982, they went down to 15% silver, or not silver, I'm sorry, copper. 95% copper. They went down to 15%. And now it costs them 3.9 cents to create a penny. Bye-bye, penny. So they're always looking, how can we do this cheaper? But you have to work the same level. You have to work harder because everything costs you more, which was something else they knew. And they said it when they created the system. If people have to work harder to maintain their standard of living, they will have less time to pay attention to what we're doing. Well, how hard do you think people have to work right now?
They've been doing that even long before that. And you know it, the Coin Act of 1953, they took 6.9% of the silver out for everything except for the Morgan dollar 0.77. They took it down to 0.72. And that was for the half, the quarter, the dime, and the half dime, which preceded the nickel, which was yet another debasement issue. This has been going on for a long time. But just like you've been pointing out, the hyperinflation is becoming hyperbolic. The debasement has been becoming hyperbolic. You know, you had the base amount of silver in our coinage, then it's going faster and faster and faster and faster. And now we're talking about stable coin, and there's nothing there.
There's nothing there. And you know, this is a physical representation of air. And they're making it in gold. This one happens to be Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, and don't they all just look like this? Don't believe the lies. You want sound money. You want real gold, real silver in your possession, because if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Where do you see the foreign gold fitting into the strategy?
Well, the raw foreign gold, like my rooster, is for the barterability. And for me personally, since President Kennedy gave them a similar status to the pre-33 similar. I like this for the barterable part of my gold portfolio, again, because it's fractional. And I just buy them the ones that are minted prior to 1948.
But I will point out another kind of fun little fact. You like numismatics?
Yes, I
right?
do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
And the GSA hoard is something that a lot of people absolutely enjoy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why do we have the GSA hoard? The Morgan silver dollar hoard that was found in the 1960s at these various Federal Reserve locations. There were 4, 5, 6 million coins or something like that, an ungodly amount. Why were these just sitting there? We had the same thing for silver, right?
Yes, we did.
Well, when they stopped that, the Federal Reserve no longer had a reason to hold all that extra silver. And lo and behold, what would come from that but a surplus of silver coinage known as the GSA. So if you ever look at the GSA hoard, all that is all those silver coins being freed up because we stopped payment on silver certificates. And that is the backbone behind the GSA. The GSA hoard is that same standard or that same story for silver. So just a little bit of a tidbit of information for
Thank
you
you. I
coming
like
from
that. I like
the
that.
numismatic side. These.
There you go.
That's the Carson City. That's the big hoard that was coming. They're GSA holders.
Oh,
Lynette, if people wanted to know more about what you guys do as Zang Enterprises or get in contact with you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, of course, there's our website, LynetteZang.com. And on YouTube and Twitter, we are very prolific at the Lynette Zang, and on Instagram and Facebook as well at Lynette Zang. And of course, I love our phone number, which is 833 GLDZANG, or translated 833-453-9264. So give us a call. We love communicating on a one-to-one basis, and we are all here to be of service to you.
And those of you who are wanting to and interested in the slab pre-33s, I have just recently got my first piece from you.
Yay!
I got my first MS62. So those of you who are interested in going into the slabbed rare pre-33s for continued increased wealth preservation, Lynette's the person to go to. She has a whole team. Those of you who are ready for that stage of your life, please feel free to contact Lynette.
Even if you are married to stacking bullion, that's absolutely fine. You have to do what you're comfortable with, regardless of what anybody says. However, in that case, I always recommend proper diversification because, as you know, I like to look at what if I'm right and what if I'm wrong. And if I can do something that does not matter whether I'm right or wrong, that is the choice that I will make. So I do the pre-33s because in this country, we've had gold confiscated 3 times. To me, that's clear historic precedence, and desperate governments do desperate things. And as we've been discussing, they've been doing it right along. So it's kind of hard for me to think that they're going to stop just at the end. But I could be wrong about that. I am also clear on how much an ounce of gold is truly worth in this system, but just make sure that you are properly diversified inside of your metals portfolio as well. You want to get yourself set up so that no matter what happens, you are in good shape.
Please go to her channel. And for those of you who have not subscribed to Frosty, his contact information for his channel is down below. If you haven't subscribed to me, please do so. It doesn't cost anything to join any of us, but what you get out of it is a wealth of knowledge to protect you, protect your family. So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone.
Oh, thank you guys. Appreciate y'all.
Bye.